So a few days ago when I was preparing for this homily, I engaged in that practice which I'm sure we're all familiar with whenever we have to sit down and do some work, the practice of procrastination. So while I'm writing, I'm thinking, what can I write? And then I have an idea and I think, I know, Facebook will give me the answer to that somehow. So I go on Facebook and I end up trawling my photos for ever since I've been on Facebook, since 2007, I think, something like that. And I got right to one of the first ever photos I posted, and I thought, oh, actually, I might be able to use that in my homily. So I turned procrastination into work. Magic. I know the law, right? In fact, this is the photo I found. Oh, that's last week's slides. I think we've made a mistake here. Anyway, until Serena pulls that photo up, it's a photo of my old five-a-side football team. So, and in this five-a-side football team, I was the captain. Okay, I looked slightly different. I had no hair on my head because that's actually my preferred hairstyle. And when I was ordained, my bishop said, "You should." Oh, here he is. Can you see me? The guy on the side? That's me. The bishop said I should grow my hair back once I was ordained in case I frightened old ladies. Anyway, in this team, I'm the captain, but I wasn't always the captain of the football team. In fact, my first ever go at the seminary football team in my first year, I was a substitute. It's really embarrassing. You know, you're just aching to play, and basically the captain's saying, "You're not good enough yet, mate." So I was waiting to get on the pitch. So as my excitement gets up, my confusion increases. And finally, with 5 minutes to go, Marcus, the captain, throws me on. So he says, right, okay, up front. Now, up front was an interpretation. So I go into my position. The ball comes to me. I can see the glory. I chest it down, get it on my knee, turn, swivel, bang, like that. Okay, straight in. Crossbar. Now, you know those glorious goals when it hits the crossbar and then crosses the line? I turn around like this to my teammates, and they're all angry with me. So what have I done? I was going up, but I wasn't up front. I was in defense. I scored in my own goal. Okay. So, you know those moments where you feel great, you're like, yes, and all of a sudden you go, oh no. That was me in that position. Today, I think the gospel is one of those. Okay, it's one of those yes, and then oh no moments. Let me explain. So Jesus says 4 times in today's gospel, you have heard how it was said, in reference to the law. And I'm going to list them. Let's do a checklist to see how well we're doing according to the law. You have heard how it was said, do not kill. Anyone committed any murders in here? I hope not. Right, so we're doing okay, right? No murderers in this church. I haven't killed anyone. I'm 1 for 1. I'm getting there, okay? Next one, do not commit adultery. I'm not married. I can't commit adultery. For the rest of you, that's your business, okay? But so far, 2 out of 2. Okay, not doing too bad. Next one, give a writ of dismissal when you divorce. So, oh, great, divorce is allowed. So, okay, you just got to do a writ of dismissal. We can all do that. It doesn't count to me because, guess what? I can't get married. I'm almost perfect. Almost. Then the 4th one, do not break your oath. So, for example, if you swear to God or swear on your mother's grave, that often means that you mean it. And you'd never be lying in that situation, would you? Not me. Guess what, folks? I'm perfect. Who's as perfect as me? Yeah? Then there's the oh no moment. Because then Jesus says something else. He says, but I say this to you. And he elaborates on this law. He adds detail to it. And then I'm not too sure. But I say this to you, do not kill. Anyone who is angry with his brother will answer for it before the court. In other words, Jesus makes anger the equivalent of murder, as cause is to effect. Now, who's never been angry with anyone ever in their life? Me neither. So, not doing too well, are we? Second one, do not commit adultery. Fine, we're okay. We're all good people. But if a man looks at a woman lustfully, he has committed adultery with her in his heart. Don't know about that either, okay? Can't say I'm innocent on that score. So that's 2 out of 2 I've got wrong. 2 oh no's. Third one, Everyone who divorces and remarries commits adultery. This is a hard one to take. And although I can say, oh, well, I'm not married, so therefore I can't do that, I've also never been married. So I've never been tested. We don't know what it's like, do we? That's 3 out of 3. Fourth one, do not break your oath. Actually, don't swear at all. Let your yes be yes and your no be no. In other words, don't swear on someone else, because what that means is you don't have confidence in your own integrity. A person whose yes means yes and whose no means no consistently swears on their own word, not even their own head. That's a level of integrity that very few of us have. And we think to ourselves, gosh, this law that Jesus comes to fulfill, he comes to elaborate, it's not just hard, but in some cases, it's not impossible. And in fact, that's the point. For us, sinful humans, by our own power, by our own nature, it is impossible. So how do we keep the law of Christ? I think St. Paul has the answer for us in the second reading today. We have a wisdom to offer to those who have reached maturity. So the first stage of coming to live the law of Christ is understanding it and understanding why it applies to our lives. Much like how we do as we grow into adults, we begin to understand some of the rules of our parents. Yeah? Now, for parents here, I'm sure your children aren't always obedient to the rules you set in your house. And children, I'm sure you feel like your parents are being a bit unfair sometimes, no? Why do I have to go to bed at 7 o'clock? It's still light outside. Why do I have to eat this dinner? I don't like greens, okay? All of these things. And your parents don't explain much, do they? They just say, you're doing it. It's so unfair. It's so unfair. And for parents, we're like, why are they being so unreasonable? Yeah? This happens, right? But then, as parents can testify, the reason you have these rules for these children is because there was a point in your life when you realized at 25 years old, you were still alive, and that was because of your parents and how they looked after you. You began to see the wisdom in the rules, the laws, and the punishments of your household, and you thought, I'm actually quite grateful for that. Do you know what? If I have kids, I'm going to do the same. Yeah? And we call that growing into maturity, when we begin to see the heart behind the rule, the love behind the law. Stage 1. Stage 2. The things we are being taught are beyond the mind of man, all that God has prepared for those who love him. When we see a heart, when we see the love behind the law, we're able to respond with our own hearts. It's only by loving the Lord, only by being in love with him, that it becomes possible first to understand and then to desire to follow his law, his way of life. Similarly, as if you would fall in love with someone and all of a sudden that thing you would never do, you do. Why? Because you love the other person. I remember the other day I was at a cinema and they had a sing-along, a Sound of Music. I don't like musicals. And I remember one time, early in my life with a girlfriend, she said, watch Sound of Music with me. And I was like, I'm not sure if I'll do that, but I kind of want to go on a date with her, so I did. I ended up loving the film myself. I did that because I wanted to be closer in intimacy with that person. Similarly with God. When we love him, things which seem irrational in everyday life all of a sudden become logical and the right way to follow. Third, and this is the crux, these are the very things that God has revealed to us through the Spirit. For the Spirit reveals the depths of everything, even the depths of God. This points to our destiny and why we were made. You see, because the law of Christ, as we've seen on that thing, is not only impossible to keep by our own power, but it's not by our own power that we're called to keep it. Our destiny isn't to die and live on a cloud playing a harp. We often have that story when we're children, don't we? God is on a cloud. He has a beard, and we will play harps like angels when we go to heaven. But the truth is far more profound than that. God has come to make us partakers in the divine nature. In other words, in Christ Jesus and by the power of the Spirit, he blends his life with ours, so we can become his sons and daughters by adoption. In the Eucharistic prayer number 2 that I'll say today, there's a line right at the end that says, we become co-heirs with Christ. This life is impossible for us without the Spirit of God who comes to dwell within us. But this life that Jesus indicates and promises us the glory that God's law won't be something that is written on tablets of stone, marked in legislation, but lived in the Spirit will be carved onto our very hearts. Amen.